What up, Capers? Martin the Thought Junkie here. Next to me, who we got?
We got Chad, the resident movie nerd.
You know who this is. This is Chris, the film school dropout.
And Ryan the collector.
And we've also got a very special guest looming in the corner over there.
Yeah.
Our very own Cape Seat Free designer who's very instrumental of us getting off the ground.
Oh, yeah.
Maggie. She might be joining us a little bit later, so we'll see.
She said hi.
Hey.
She's going to play some football.
Yeah.
So
Which
she's
in-
Maggie, the football player.
America is known as soccer.
Correct.
Well,
Yeah.
no, she's actually playing football.
Oh, she's playing football. Oh, okay.
American football.
I thought you were trying to
American
be
flag
funny.
football. Yeah.
Well, it could be European
Football.
football. I don't know.
Gotcha.
No, we're in America. You should know.
Yeah, you should.
And that's cool.
That's true.
Correct.
That's why I guess I thought it was the other one.
Alright, we're cutting all this out.
Yeah.
Very special moment. This is the first time we all have our own microphone, which is either going to be great in editing or really poor.
Why do you keep looking at me?
Because you're going to be editing.
I am not going to be the only one editing.
You know, Sam, I went and checked out. I was out there. I was like, I'm going to find a good beer of the week for this. We're watching Watchmen.
Yeah.
And the beer of the week right now is a Lagunitas. It's called Undercover Investigation Shutdown Ale.
Ooh,
Yes.
I can see the tie already, but what's the
tastes
tie?
really good.
Huh?
Wait.
Tie in.
Yeah, how does it taste?
It's good. I like
It's
it.
got a hoppy kind of taste.
But it's like, why isn't it just Undercover Investigation? It's Undercover Investigation Shutdown Ale. It's like somebody shut
That's
down
the
an
aftertaste. After you taste that first
Yeah.
bite,
Okay.
it gets in there. You're like, boom! It shuts you down. You're drinking the rest of it.
Well, you drink enough of these, it'll shut you down.
Yeah, exactly.
It Rorschachs you. It Rorschachs you.
Rorschach's you. Ooh, nice. The collector
Yes.
with a little
Thank you.
comic relief.
Apparently, this is brewed in Petaluma, California, and Chicago, Illinois.
It
I don't know how they
says,
work
it
that.
says beer speaks, people mumble. Does any Rorschach kind of mumbles?
He yeah,
He does.
through his
That's-
mask.
mask,
So,
yeah.
he does a little
Yeah.
bit.
And
This was a great choice, Chris.
And this is
It's good.
9.7 alcohol content.
Yeah.
So
Is that higher?
we'll see how we feel.
That's pretty
how
high
we
for beer.
sound
It's high
at
for
the end
beer.
of this.
I think this might be the second best beer of the week that we've done this season
What was
so
the
far.
first best?
Yeah, what was the first best?
Fireman for
9/11.
9/11
Yeah, that was a good
and
one.
Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Hello.
Correct.
Oh.
What we got for Caper of the Week?
Caper of the Week is the Amanda Panda.
Yeah, you can find her on Instagram, the Amanda Panda.
The
My-
underscore Amanda Panda.
Yes, correct. My favorite picture of her is the Wastelands photo. She has some really cool cosplay. It's really detailed. And Ryan, you know the Amanda Panda personally.
I do, yeah. So Amanda, for a good while, she was one of the managers of a local comic book store that I frequent called Blast Off Comics. And she did a great job. She was very extensively knowledgeable in the comic book realm as far as new comics go, and she got really good at vintage comics. Great person. I believe she now works at a comic book publishing company called Boom Studios. So that is my backstory on Amanda Panda.
Find the underscore Amanda Panda on Instagram, folks.
Yeah.
Our Caper of the Week. We raise our undercover shutdown ale to you, Amanda Panda. Thank you for
Yeah.
liking our photos.
Cheers.
Yep.
Thank you for being a fan.
Thanks
And
for the
she
support.
does
That's
a lot
right.
of great cosplay stuff too. So yeah.
Yeah, check it
cool.
out.
So
It's
check her
really
out.
cool. Hey, collector. What you got for...
What do you got for us today?
Okay. Today.
Do you have a copy of Watchmen?
Well, I tried to get number 1, which it's not a very expensive book. None of the original series really is, to be honest. But couldn't find one, so I managed to pick up number 6. So it's a 12-issue run that when the first series came out in 1985. And here is number 6. It has an image of Rorschach on the cover, so it's pretty cool.
All right, so I have a question. So it was like a limited run, 12 issues, spread out over 12 weeks, 12 months.
I believe over 12. I want to say 12 months, but don't quote me.
12
on that.
months, and then later on, because now you buy Watchmen, you pretty much buy it bound
Yeah.
into one book. It's been combined into one because it's a single contained
Yep.
story.
See,
right?
check February 1987. So actually, it might have come out in 86. Now that I think about it, the actual comic series.
Okay.
But yeah, so it was a monthly comic.
Right. Oh, wow.
You know, it's got cool colors. The artist was I believe his name was Dave Gibbons. The writer, of course. I mean, everyone knows the writer. One of the most famous writers in history, Alan Moore.
Yep.
I mean, doesn't get more famous than that. He's a very interesting writer, kind of a recluse, as most people know him to be. Very opinionated, very political. And I definitely have some interesting backstory on what he was thinking when he was
Oh,
making
yeah,
this
we'll
comic.
get into
So
all that.
we'll
I
get into
can't,
that
I
later.
can't wait to hear about Steve
Yeah.
Ditko and all that stuff, man.
Well, Steve Ditko had nothing to do with this.
What? For with Watchmen?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's all Alan Moore. Right?
yeah.
I thought Steve Ditko had something to do with it.
No, he's got nothing to do with this.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to do some more
So
research.
this is a
Come
how
back
much?
to
So
it.
how much?
That's why I'm
does
not the
this go-
collector.
How much does one of these issues go for now?
So I bought this for like $15, which was
Oh, okay.
honestly
$15.
I paid a little more than I even wanted to.
So, without further ado, let's get this bad boy started.
do
We
it.
are watching the theatrical cut of Watchmen. I personally love the director's extended cut. I feel like it adds so much more value to it. Those extra 20 minutes you start out scenes with more information and you end scenes with more information as well, which overall helps with the experience.
I was gonna say because truthfully, I haven't watched the theatrical. I've only ever watched really the director's
my
cut.
God.
So I don't even remember. I don't even really know what the difference is, to be quite frank. So
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff cut out. As
Okay.
in director's commentaries, or director's commentary, as in director's cuts, there's just a lot. There's 20 minutes cut
Right.
out. So,
and 20 minutes of screen time can mean a lot. So
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
a lot of
Oh,
development.
that make it a full 3 hours, right?
all right, Chad.
That-
You
All
got the
right,
remote
ready
in your
to play?
hand.
All right,
hopefully,
here we
hopefully
go.
one day we'll get the Snyder Justice League cut.
I
but-
can't wait for that.
Here we go. We are starting Watchmen right.
I'm starting at 0-0.
now.
Go. We are
All
at
right.
3, 4, 5 seconds in.
This is cool. I like they kind of modified the studio logos here to match the kind of the look of the movie, the yellow
Yeah.
and black.
Yep.
Co-production between Warner Brothers and Paramount. Paramount had international distribution. Warner Brothers did it in the United States.
Wow.
It was so cool the way the lighting on the smiley face kind of fades out to be darker and grittier as it goes closer into it. I never really realized that before.
That's perfect. When the marketing came out, I mean, most of the marketing was just that smiley face.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
It just starts right on that smiley face and just opens up to
This
the
this
comedian.
this is my first time seeing Negan.
Oh, with
Oh,
Jeffrey
yeah.
Dean Morgan. This is
Yeah.
what I basically knew him from before he popped up on The Walking Dead
Yep.
a few years ago as
Oh.
Negan. So he's
Yeah.
so good. He's a
He was
great
in like
actor.
Red Dawn, the remake of Red Dawn as well. So he's been doing little smaller things, but
He's been in a lot of stuff over the years. He's had a long
Oh, yeah.
career. But
I like him as an actor for sure.
yeah, he's really as Negan. It's like Negan's such a villain on The Walking Dead, but like you like him though. You know what I mean? It's that's a really
Well, you-
hard thing to do.
You definitely like him here. I mean, the comedian is like one of the most
Oh, yeah.
enjoyable characters. But-
Right.
Well, do you guys know what other superhero movie he was in?
Yes, he was in Batman vs Superman.
Okay, that one too. What
Oh.
other one?
He played
Wait.
Bruce. He played Dad.
Yeah,
He
he
plays
plays
Batman's
his dad.
What
That's
else is
true.
he in?
He was in The Losers,
Oh, that's right.
What's The Losers?
The Losers.
which is
That's right.
it's a DC comic.
So
Really?
Zack Snyder
Oh, it is?
reused
Oh,
him
I
again.
don't know that
Batman,
one.
Superman.
Yeah, and that
Briefly.
also Captain America was in it. Chris Evans is also in The
Oh,
Losers, too.
interesting.
Oh,
Oh,
Zoe
Losers!
Saldana, right? Zoe
I
Saldana's in it
think
too,
I
right?
texted that. What?
Wasn't
Zoe Saldana?
wasn't Anakin Skywalker in Losers as well?
I don't know.
No,
I assume you're talking about
Which
Hayden
Anakin?
no, you're
You're talking
talking
about Hayden Christensen? Or?
The other, is that the older one?
Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
older one, yeah.
No, I don't think he was in that one.
I like this kind of cold open. We haven't gotten. I know there's a kind of an awesome title sequence coming up in this movie. I remember that. It's been a few years since
Yeah.
I watched this. I just got to say, like, I like this. I'm not familiar with the comic. I've never read Watchmen, but I liked this movie. I saw. We're actually celebrating this just within the past week. Was the 10th anniversary of this movie. This came out March 6, 2009. And we're recording this a few days after the 10th anniversary, which is pretty awesome.
Yep.
And I remember really liking this. And this is, I gotta say, like, I don't like a lot of Zack Snyder movies, to be honest. But
Your favorite one?
I think this is my favorite. So this is actually a Zack
too.
Snyder movie I like.
Well,
I
and,
think,
and let me just say something interesting about a
Mm-hmm.
comment you made, how you never had read the comics. That's what's beautiful about this movie. It is almost a pure adaptation, unlike any comic book movie that's ever been made.
Yeah.
So you kind of have read the comics. If you've seen the movie, you pretty much know the comic because you can read the comics and it is like verbatim watching the movie. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, no, Zack Snyder tried to recreate a lot of actual comic book panels, which is something that was done. Has tried to be done in other movies like Into the Spider-Verse. They actually recreate, and Sin City did that too a few years before this. So.
Mhm. But I had not read the comic. I'll be honest, I still haven't read these comics, but I had not read the comics before
I've
this
read a
movie,
little
so
bit.
I didn't know what was happening.
Yeah, me
at
neither.
any point. Yeah, this was new
But-
for me too.
I saw this trailer. I saw the trailer for this. But still, my favorite trailer of all time.
Oh yeah, the teaser trailer for this. Is,
I saw the trailer this
was
at
amazing.
when I saw The Dark Knight, and I had a friend, probably the nerdiest person I know at the time. This is back in 2008. we talked that night because he saw it in a different screen than I did, and we came back and convened, and I'm like, dude, did you see that Watchmen thing? It was so badass. And
Yeah.
he was so mad that he didn't see it. His screen didn't show it. He did not let that go for like 2 hours.
Yep.
So Watchmen was huge. I had no idea.
It was and of course the song from the Watchmen trailer was undeniably just one of the most amazing songs ever. And Smashing Pumpkins, the end is the beginning is the end. I mean, it just encapsulates that trailer.
So this scene here, okay, Ryan, we were talking Collector earlier. I was watching a video earlier today that said what the Watchmen movie got wrong, even though it got so much stuff right, is the fact that none of these characters had superpowers except for Dr. Manhattan. So here, I'm under the assumption that the comedian, has superpowers of strength, of superhuman strength.
Right. And I know we kind of debated that a little bit off mode, and I can understand that, but yeah, I would take it more as he's just a strong guy who a lot of strong people can break bricks and punch through walls, quite frankly. So I think they're just very highly skilled in martial arts, weaponry, and can do stuff like that. Chris, you were going to
no, in this, but the thing is, they mentioned, and we'll see in the next scene where this glass, when he gets thrown through the glass in a second, that no one can throw people through this glass. Like,
Right.
We'll have to see it again. I mean, he picks them up pretty easily, but I think, in my personal opinion, and I do agree with you to an extent, Martin, I think Ozymandias of the group, there is an element of him that does feel a little more superpowered than everyone else.
Yeah, originally I thought because he's supposed to be the smartest man, so he can anticipate a lot of moves. Therefore, it makes him. It's kind of like it makes him much more formidable in the fight because he's predicting what's happening. But
no, I agree, Chris. But the fact that he just picked up a 250-pound guy, like he was picking up a bag of groceries without. I mean, that does seem a little over the top as far as strength goes. But
then you think about like Fight or Flight, right? The stories of the mom that picks up the car to pull her child from under it. Like Fight or Flight, he's actually fighting for his life here. So I can see that.
You guys, okay, so now we're in this awesome opening title sequence. See this scene right here with, that's actually, I'm not sure, I don't know the character's name. That's him knocking out, that's him saving Bruce Wayne's parents. So in this alternate universe, there's no need for Batman.
I thought that was when
because you
the
see
kid...
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's what that is.
And that was a very interesting term you just used, Chad, because alternate universe is really a lot of what the Watchmen is all about, which I'm going to explain later in something else. But
it's kind of interesting that then Zack Snyder goes on to direct Batman versus Superman, but here it's like no need for Batman because in this alternate timeline, alternate DC timeline.
So when Alan Moore originally created the comics, he wanted to create a universe where we questioned, could a superhero be a real thing, a superpower person in a reality base, and the way he did that was creating an alternate version of history where it feels like they're really in your timeline and they're really changing the Vietnam War and other aspects of that. So in the Cold War. So he really wanted to kind of introduce this element of we feel like we could actually experience these people. But there's a political element to it too. Alan Moore was huge political. So
I fall in love with this more and more. Like I love going back and watching movies as I get older because you start to understand the message a little bit more.
Yeah.
And this is a very political film. When I was 22 or 23 when this first came out and I saw it, I didn't give a damn about it. But as I develop and grow older and start to learn more about the world, I love this movie because it talks so much and it talks so deeply and candidly about the issues. It makes me jealous that I didn't live during this time when this came out and was able to read it and feel like it was refreshing and something new.
Yep.
Yeah. So, this takes place in an alternate 1985, right? Which, you guys know what other movie takes place in an alternate 1985?
Back to the Future.
Back to the Future Part 2.
Oh, okay.
Back to the Future Part 2. You have which is kind of cool that there's two in the year that Martin and I were born. Are you in 85? You're in 80. Are you in
84?
He's in 80. Okay, so Martin and I were both born in 85. So that's why Back to the Future is my favorite movie.
I just have to point out that Marty McFly goes Back to the Future #2 on October 21st, 1985, which is my birthday. October 21st, 1984.
Okay. Well, that's a couple months before, or a month and a half before Martin and I were born because we're only a week apart. But
But
I think that's why I love Back to the Future, because it's like that's my year and stuff.
Yeah.
And this is kind of cool too. Another alternate 1985, something taking place.
This is so cool to see too. I'm sorry I jumped over you, but like how many times I remember going through phase. Did anybody go through that phase of conspiracy videos on YouTube?
Oh,
I
still
just
do that.
watched the
I love that
Zapruder
stuff.
film
Yeah.
of the assassination so many times,
Mhm.
and then to see that it's
The
the
comedian.
comedian.
No, I love that. See, this is cool. Like, I like this opening montage. It's like a lot of like alternate history stuff or like explanations. Like, I love that stuff where you tie fictional things into real historical events and
Right.
things like that.
Does anybody know what that is? That the monk burning himself in
Self
protest.
Self-immolation,
immolation.
yeah.
Yeah, that's
happened, which is
First
crazy.
time.
It's not the first time.
No.
Tyler
So,
Bates, music
this
by
is-
Tyler Bates.
This is one of the best like opening title sequence montages.
Bob
in a
Dylan
movie
song, I mean,
for
you
a
can't
while.
do
Yeah,
that.
no,
No,
it's
great.
amazing.
And
It's
give
so
the
well done.
backstory without having to do us all this
There's
exposition.
no dialogue.
Yeah.
It doesn't even need to be
Smart.
dialogue. It's great.
And then we jump to that
Oh,
Rorschach sign right there.
Yeah.
So now we know that we're coming into the future a little bit, I'm guessing.
Yeah, yeah, no, yeah.
So the first appearance of Watchmen, I think there's actually a misconception that it was Watchmen #1, which technically it was, but it was actually DC. I think it was called DC Spotlight or DC Special #1. Someone feel free to correct me when you're listening to this, but in 1985. But what's interesting is that was in the original Watchmen. The Watchmen that we know them as in the movie, Ozymandias, Dr. Manhattan, Night Owl, Rorschach, that was Watchmen #1. So technically it was their first appearance in the original
Yeah.
series.
They had to cast a lot of lookalikes here. Andy Warhol,
Oh, yeah.
Truman Capote, Richard Nixon, JFK. Like,
Yeah,
there's a lot of
Castro.
people. Fidel Castro.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people represented.
I love this
Neil
too right here,
Armstrong.
where the moon landing and
That's so cool.
Dr. Manhattan's out there too.
I have a friend who's big into alien conspiracies
That's
and all
great.
that
That's
stuff.
He was
Really
filming
cool.
it. Yeah, he was
Yeah.
filming it. Dr. Manhattan.
That's
Oh,
really
Manhattan
I
was
love
filming
that.
it.
Yeah.
Oh man,
Really cool.
Studio 54. This is really cool.
Yeah,
So he
it's
becomes a
kinda
big
tiny.
star.
God,
because
it's-
he starts.
Makes them seem like they were part of the real world.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
And we all know this. We all know what's that group called? The
Village People.
Village People,
Like
yeah.
we all know.
I
this
think Mick
stuff.
Jagger and David Bowie were also represented in there
Mhm.
too. Yeah.
And then they had the MTV opening,
Yeah.
MTV on television
Yep.
at the very beginning and opening. Like this is cool because no matter what age you are, you can kind of you can relate to what you're seeing on screen. This montage, you're right, Chad. It does such a good job at opening up and telling us what the world is, and
Right.
including little snippets of whatever generation in there.
And
for
you know
us.
things are a little bit off because like Nixon elected for third term. Well, that didn't happen in third term. Isn't
yeah.
even possible after World War II. So it's like something's weird. This is like an alternate kind of universe thing.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, Ryan, you were talking about that teaser trailer earlier. Like I said, I
Oh
knew
my
nothing
God.
I knew nothing about the book, and watching that, and I was so blown away. I just rewatched it recently, and it's like it's such a good teaser. It looks so
Yeah.
cool. And that Smashing Pumpkins song, was it called? The beginning is the end is the beginning, or
Correct,
the end
yeah.
is the.
Yeah.
But the B side of that was like the
Oh.
end is the beginning is the end.
That's the name of the
which actually was the title song from, I think, was it Batman and Robin? Joel Schumacher's Batman and Robin, I
Oh,
believe.
that's funny.
So it's kind of like another little superhero tie-in.
Well,
there.
there's two versions of that song, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Hmm.
And that song was in another movie. Was it in Batman again?
I'm not
The
sure.
other version was in another movie. I
Is it-
forgot.
yeah,
don't
the title
know,
song from
yeah.
one of the '90s Batmans.
Ugh.
So right now we're getting the initial phase of the movie where we're introducing who the comedian really was. Edward Blake. He was actually. They learn in this moment that he's a spy. Chris, I'm sure you can
Yeah.
speak to that.
Oh yeah, no. And this is they they call it a spook.
Yeah.
But
Oh, that's kind of overtly racist.
well, yeah. At the
Even though
time,
it's not
that's what
black,
they used for spies. That
Right.
was the term they used for spies.
Oh, gotcha.
Right.
Okay.
For
Not
So-
you, by the
no,
way.
yeah.
So he said you have to step on the glass to even make a dent into this, or step on the gas to make
Yeah.
a dent in this glass.
Mm-hmm. And it's
And
a
that's-
very unique cityscape. Like, look at this.
Yeah.
There's like, wow, what are those? What are we looking
Yeah.
at? Are they like?
It's cool. It's like a little Blade Runner-ish sort of
Yeah.
like floating ships. And
It's
Yeah,
like-
yeah.
Jackie Earle Haley is
It's
so
like different
good.
stuff. The technology is still not there, but they just did different stuff with
Yeah.
the technology that they have already.
Yeah.
Right.
You know.
October 12th, 1985. I think the first Back to the Future takes place on the 1985 part is like October 21st, 1985 or something.
Yeah.
So it's like it's very close to the same date as Back to the Future, which is really cool.
Right. Just look at the composition of that shot. That extreme close up with the moon in the background.
Shadows.
Just everything about it is just so fucking sexy.
Yep.
The
It's just,
DP
it
of this
is-
movie, Larry Fong,
Uh huh.
interesting. He shot a lot of Zack Snyder movies, but he actually was the very first DP on Lost. He shot the first several episodes of Lost, including the pilot and stuff for J.J. Abrams. So you could say he technically established the look of that show, which was one of the most cinematic things on TV probably until Game of Thrones came along. So
Rorschach is by far my most favorite character. I mean, he seems like he's the most just kind of grittiest and undermining to everything, but he's actually really the true hero of the movie. Quite frankly, what's cool is we're getting the perception, who the movie's point of view from. It's from Rorschach.
You know what I'm getting? Yeah. You know what I'm thinking right now? He's like basically Spider-Man noir.
You could say that.
He's a noir character. He's in a trench coat. He's in a fedora. He does VO voiceover like right now in like the very noirish way. He's very dark. He's gritty. Yeah, you know what I mean. Like, and just after Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, Spider-Man Noir, Nicolas Cage, like it's very, and they both have masks covered.
Right, he's monochrome. His whole outfit.
Yeah, exactly. And I could he's black and white with his face and stuff, and I could definitely hear him saying lines like it's Spider-Man Noir, like sometimes I let a match burn down to my fingers just so I can feel something. You wrestle the moral ambiguity of your actions.
So his costume, I think, reflects his personality so much. Very monochrome. He's very black and white. If you're good, you're good. If you're bad, you're bad. There's no gray. There's no in between, which is why I love his character.
Well, that's interesting because a Rorschach test which his face represents in psychology, that's meant to be open to interpretation. How people interpret that.
Right.
What do you think is the meaning behind that?
That's a good question.
You know what I mean?
That is a good question.
There's a quote that Oscar Wilde said: "Man is least himself when he talks in his own person. Give him a mask and he'll tell you the truth." It's like I've been like pondering that.
That
for
could
like
be
the
any.
last few days.
That could apply to any superhero just about too.
So now I don't remember if he knew Edward Blake was the comedian until now. I feel like he probably did, but I can't remember in the movie if that was the case or not. But in the movie right now, we're getting the scene where Rorschach has opened to the comedian's private stash of weaponry and everything, and they just cut back perfectly to like another scene where you're getting the photo of the old Watchmen class. So it's pretty cool.
So these guys are supposed to be pretty old. So we're going back. This photo's from 45 years
this is the
earlier.
Minutemen. This is their parents.
It's their parents. Sorry, I haven't watched this in a while. So this isn't them in the photo.
So Blake is young in this photo, old in our world that we're watching.
So interesting about that term Minutemen.
Yeah.
When the original comic was created and finished in '87, DC eventually was like, "Oh, we want to reboot this. We want to do something." Alan Moore wanted to create a comic called The Minutemen, and it would have been essentially a story about the original one. They couldn't work it out. Dave Gibbons, the artist, eventually gave DC his okay. He okayed it, and that's where now in 2012 they created the series called Before Watchmen. So that was a more recent comic
but Alan
series
Moore had nothing to do with that?
He had nothing to do with it, and that is essentially prequels of each character.
Wow.
Yeah, because Alan Moore famously will not watch any adaptations of work.
Nope.
He refuses. He's very reclusive. Zack Snyder said something once like, worst case scenario is some cold Sunday, he pops the DVD in and watches it or something, and then Alan Moore, I think, responded one time saying, worst case scenario, and he was really gruff. And
and according to what I know online, I've only read in the past that he's combative, tough to work with. I think Dave Gibbons was one of the few artists that really worked with him on a lot of things.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So Ryan, I think what I was talking about before is Ditko was with Charlton Comics, right? Is that sound familiar?
Yeah, I know. I know Charleston Comics. There is an element of that. Yeah.
Okay, and then I'm reading here. You might not immediately know the Charlton name, but to fans of certain sentimental comics, it probably sounds familiar. In the 80s, DC Comics purchased a Charlton character catalog shortly before Alan Moore and Dave Gibbons began work on the book that would incorporate Charlton Ditko's heavy roster. That story will become Watchmen.
Gotcha.
I think that's where I got confused.
Maybe that's
Ditko.
it. Okay.
So we have Patrick Wilson. I like Patrick Wilson.
He's one of my favorite actors.
He's really great.
I love him.
He's good in everything.
Two of my favorite actors are in this movie. Him and
Jeffrey Dean Morgan?
No.
Jackie Earle Haley?
No. Billy Crudup.
Billy Crudup.
Yeah, we'll get to him. Yeah.
And his character that Patrick Wilson plays, Night Owl. I mean, he's such an interesting character. He's so just sensitive and he cares so much.
Yeah.
You just naturally want to root for him.
You gravitate towards him, right?
You do. Yeah. I love his character too.
So Ryan, you're talking a little bit about the history of this being published and Alan Moore and adaptations. Yeah, movie studios wanted to. This came out, 85, 86, the original comic. They wanted to adapt this into a movie right away. So this was pretty much in what they call in the industry development hell from 1987 to about 2005.
Holy crap!
That's a long time.
Yeah.
That's a long
Development
time.
hell is when some studio owns the rights and they're trying to develop it with writers, trying to attach directors, and just it never gets the green light and goes forward. So over time, and then stuff started to finally move on a little bit in the early 2000s, around 2005, and they almost had different directors do, including Terry Gilliam, which would have been interesting because he did like Brazil and all sorts of stuff. Michael Bay, they wanted Michael Bay at one point to do this.
Wow.
Darren Aronofsky. So there were a few different directors that were possibly considered for it before Zack Snyder.
Interesting. That's awesome.
Which Zack Snyder's probably based on the success of 300 just a couple years before this.
And
So
Snyder loves this stuff. He loves the source
yeah,
material.
the comic book stuff. So
Like
yeah.
you were talking, Ryan, earlier that this is verbatim what the graphic
Pretty much.
novel looks
Yeah.
like.
So it
Yeah.
took a while to get off.
Yeah.
It took a while to get off the ground.
Yeah.
I guess while we're talking about it getting off the ground as a movie, so this was made for a budget of about $130 million. Which
Wow.
is pretty
What?
expensive. It's
Yeah,
kind of a
it's
lot.
expensive for
Now this opened in March 2009 to $55 million, which is a pretty good opening for March. Like that's a pretty good opening,
Yeah.
but it dropped off really rapidly in the grosses. And it only ended up grossing about $185 million worldwide.
Oh, wow.
Off a $130 million budget is not very good.
No, that's a lot.
So
That's why it was Watchmen
it
too.
opened big, but then for whatever reason, all the fans saw opening weekend, and then it just kind of dropped off.
After all the
unfortunately.
advertising they did for this, which I remember a good amount in trailers and everything, there's no doubt they took a loss in this movie then.
Yeah,
They had to.
no, it's unfortunate because I mean,
It's
this actually
pre-production.
on IMDb this has a 7.6,
This movie-
7.7. It's got a 64% on Rotten Tomatoes. It's
Yeah.
fresh. It's not. It's
This movie
well
just simply
received.
it came out too soon.
I agree.
If it would have came out now, as how dark our world is
Yeah.
with the
Yeah.
internet and how we can dive in and learn and Google things for ourselves and
Yeah.
learn the intricacies of these just everything that's going on in the world. Like this movie would have been perfect for now.
Mhm.
That's why it's coming
Yeah.
out on what Netflix, right? Is it Netflix or is
Yes,
it
no, HBO. It's
HBO.
HBO. HBO's making
Oh yes, that's right. That's a good point. It's
with
being
the TV
adapted.
series?
There's a new
TV
TV
series,
series
yes.
based on this premiering later this year on HBO.
I'm excited for that.
With Damon Lindelof bringing it back to Lost, who was one of the showrunners on Lost, which is kind of cool.
Was
so
Damon on
in The Leftovers, he did The
Leftovers, yeah,
Leftovers,
that's
which
what I
is one
remember,
of we've talked about. It's one of the best shows of the last.
So
15 years.
what's
HBO's keeping them around.
What's
Yeah,
interesting
it's gonna
about
be good.
the comic, and it's unique that this happens so often throughout in the history of comic books, is the editor on the original series was actually Len Wein. Now, when most people think of Len Wein, they think of Hulk 181, first appearance of Wolverine, Marvel. You don't think of him as being a DC person, but as is the case, I just have to point out, so many times people have either been spurned by someone, maybe their boss at one of the publishing companies, or for whatever reason, maybe they feel like they can't put forth their true creativity in what they're doing, so they switch over to another publisher who recognizes they have the chance to get a massively talented person on their staff.
Yeah.
So Len Wein, who was previously the editor at Marvel Comics in the early mid-70s, was now at DC and was the editor in this book. So
Okay.
yeah,
Wow.
that was a
go
long
back-
way of saying that. But I
Going back
had
to Zack Snyder too, I don't know. Zack Snyder, he's a director who he always has specific visions,
Right.
but sometimes I think he emphasizes visuals over storytelling
I-
and character
I-
stuff
I can agree
sometimes.
with
You know
that,
what I mean?
yes.
Like he wants to just do what looks cool,
Mm.
which isn't always great. Michael Bay gets criticized for that and stuff
Nolan
like
gets
that.
criticized for that.
Well,
Yeah,
Nolan
Nolan's
spends a lot of time on
cold.
story,
It's like
though.
cold
Nolan gets
emotion.
Nolan
That's
gets
different.
criticized for emotionless.
Nolan
not
thinks
sticking.
out plot. Nolan thinks out plot. It's just the emotion. But Zack Snyder,
I guess to each its own, right?
but I like like I said, I don't like a lot of Zack Snyder movies. I think we talked about this before. I actually don't dislike Batman Superman. I actually like Batman Superman, which is really
More
I
than
was
Man
very
of Steel,
surprised.
which is really
I don't
surprising.
like Man of Steel. Don't like Justice League. Didn't like 300.
The thing is,
Yeah,
when I
but
watched the
didn't like Sucker
director's
Punch.
version
Yeah,
of Batman vs Superman, I like that a lot better.
really?
See?
Okay.
Yes.
The director's
Director's
version of
version.
Watchmen is
I
insanely
have not
better.
seen
I agree.
I haven't seen this one. I haven't seen the director's version of
Ah.
Watchmen yet. No.
Yeah.
But,
Okay, can I just point that out? Twin Towers, something moving towards the towers in the back.
Ooh.
Oh,
Every time I watch this, it's
Well,
just
there's a
interesting.
it was a blimp.
going towards it.
85?
A moving, and of course, continuity. It's
Actually,
closer now.
I believe there was a. Do you guys know that I believe it was the Empire State Building when it was built in the 1930s was designed to have a docking station for blimps way up near the top.
Wow.
Because back when blimps were still a big thing before the Hindenburg and all
Right,
that
yeah.
stuff
I didn't know that.
kind of ruined it in I think the
Oh.
late 30s. There may have been. Was there a crash? Something, or I think a small plane or something crashed into the Empire State Building. It wasn't obviously as
it was
destructive as
It was kind of
September 11th attacks, but something. It was like a small plane.
Yeah.
But I think that's an interesting thing of the blimps, and it was designed when people thought that was the future of air travel, was like people on dirigibles and stuff.
When the Twin Towers were being built, I remember seeing something somewhere, and this might not be accurate, but I remember they built it with the idea that a plane bigger than a 757 could potentially hit the Twin Towers and it could still stay standing.
Well,
so I remember seeing something about that.
They may have done that because of the small plane that had hit the Empire State Building, which I believe was in a really foggy day. And this was in the 30s or 40s.
Yeah,
this was a long time ago when that happened because of the fog. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, who knows?
So an interesting moment just occurred. We have Night Owl currently at the headquarters, or the building, the business where Ozymandias has created his own empire. And Night Owl says everyone knows who your secret identity is, because what's interesting, when they created the comics, once again, it was about creating superheroes you feel you could identify with. But in the story, they are there's been a governmental act where they've outlawed superheroes essentially. But Ozymandias decided above all of them to come out publicly. I mean, obviously everyone knows who Dr. Manhattan is, but Ozymandias is the one who came out publicly and created a open life for himself. But so that's what Night Owl was pointing out, is that he's still in the dark.
And then you think about the people. You think about all the talks you hear about people who gain too much power, the people who are assassinated. You think about Martin Luther King, who gains too much power, gains the trust, and then they get assassinated. That's essentially what you're looking at here with these superheroes. They've gained so much power that the government has to step in and say, we need to regulate you at some point.
Well, no, and ironically, it was Nixon who really targeted. Back then, he targeted the hippie community and the black community at the time because of the power that they were getting.
Right.
And it's kind of funny that Nixon is also targeting the superhero community in Watchmen in this alternate universe because of the power they were getting.
Not funny. It's that's what these creators probably wanted us to. They wanted us to find those correlations. As a filmmaker who really cares about society, it's always talking about: do you have an obligation to tell stories that are going to influence the masses to change positively, or are you going to make stories that influence the masses just to be distracted? So it sucks that this movie, which is so good at influencing us to think for ourselves, did so poorly.
Yeah, it was just a lot for people to take in.
I think
a long runtime kind of sometimes hurts movies.
Yeah, and at that time, runtime for something this long would have to be a special.
Now, we've heard that Avengers Endgame is probably about 3 hours, which it needs to be, but that's still going to do an amazing box office. But
so now we're being introduced to Dr. Manhattan. Not the part where we get his backstory, his origin, but just the character. And I mean, he's like an otherworldly being. I mean, it's his body.
First thing we see is his blue ass.
His blue ass.
The symbol on his forehead is the symbol for the hydrogen atom, which is the most prevalent atom in the universe.
Yeah.
But I just want to point out, Dr. Manhattan, very interesting character. I mean, we talked about how we felt like they introduced this notion of there really was superpowers with the team in the movie compared to the comic books and blah, blah, whereas Dr. Manhattan really is the only superpowered being. But not only is he the only superpowered being, he is an extremely superpowered. I mean, there are so many YouTube videos comparing him to other unearthly beings of massive power and destruction in the DC universe, and he pretty much can hold his own. I mean, we're talking cosmic beings that can destroy universes on a blip. I mean, he can really hold his own.
Now, why doesn't he wear pants?
Well, I think he's a blue bald.
That's it.
I mean, he doesn't need pants.
If you had a body like that, would you wear clothes?
I just like Billy Crudup's suthing voice coming out of him. I know. So it's just come on. We all know of him from the MasterCard Priceless. There's some tear-jerking commercials in the 90s and early 2000s.
What other comic book movie do you get a great voice with a different person doing the body? And that might be full. I don't think that's full CG. No, that's a person. I'm pretty sure. But what other comic? Nope, not that.
I don't know.
What was the question?
What other comic book movie do you see a great actor's voice but with someone else's body?
iRobot?
No.
No.
Well, that's not what I'm thinking.
All right, just tell us, because I don't know.
All right, Fantastic Four #2, Silver Surfer, Lawrence Fishburne's voice, but that was a body actor.
I never saw those movies.
But I did.
A little tying into Hulk. Billy Crudup was actually offered the role in Ang Lee's Hulk.
Really?
Think about this, because think of we've talked about maybe not Ed Norton, but Mark Ruffalo and Eric Bana are more timid kind of guys who turn into the Hulk. Billy Crudup I could see being good.
He might have been
Bruce,
the best
Bruce
Hulk ever.
Banner, really timid.
Oh my
turning,
God.
This is almost like Hulk. He transforms
He
into
might have been the best
Yes, he
Hulk
was
ever,
considered
you're
for
right,
Ang Lee's 2003 Hulk. Yes,
It is
Which
actually
would've been
similar. I mean, it's
interesting.
Chris. What is the radiation? Gamma.
Gamma radiation.
Yeah, I mean,
Yes.
you kind of
Yeah.
Chad's. I mean, he makes a good point. It's
Yeah.
like gamma radiation becomes the Hulk. Whatever the hell that device was that turns him. I don't know what that was, but
We'll
it turns
find
him
out
into-
again.
You guys want to hear something interesting? You know that
Yes.
shot at the
Yes.
beginning of this
Tell us.
with him on the moon.
Uh-huh.
If you listen really closely during that, you hear Neil Armstrong say something like, I forget the exact name. It's like "Good luck, Mrs. Godfrey" or something like that. Because there was an urban legend, which I hadn't heard about before. There was an urban legend for decades after the moon landing that Neil Armstrong, as a kid, was trying to retrieve a baseball from his neighbor's backyard or something, right? And while he was trying to get a baseball from the backyard, he heard the windows were open in his neighbor's house, and he could hear the couple arguing, and he heard the woman say, I guess their names were the Godfreys, like, "I'll give you oral sex when the kid next door walks on the moon." So there was an urban legend
that's amazing.
that when Neil Armstrong got to the moon, he said, "Good luck, Mrs. Godfrey," or whatever like that, right?
That is the best.
Which
Wow.
Neil Armstrong later debunked, obviously. That's obviously not true.
And
But,
to be clear, we know the moon landing was a farce, right? We know that.
let's not get into that. Come on.
There's a lot of YouTube videos. proving that
Whatever.
There was a
But anyways,
stage-
that,
But
but
we
I
just
thought
saw
that was,
that
I think
Hat
that's
was
pretty
filming it.
hilarious.
It was
That
real. All right.
I think that's pretty hilarious. They put that
That
in
is
to
pretty
watch.
fun.
Which it's hard to hear under the the Bob Dylan song, but I just thought I'd point that out.
Okay, I'm gonna go deep. Ryan, you went deep. I'm going deep.
Did I go deep?
Dive in, baby, dive in.
I
As 99 Balloons starts right here.
didn't love this.
Love balloons or
Love
whatever.
balloons.
I just find it so funny how we discredit conspiracies in our generation and in our lifetime, yet when we find out conspiracies have happened 30 years prior, we accept them as they come out as true. You know what I mean? Like, I just think that's such a weird dynamic that in your lifetime, while you're experiencing something, you'll take a conspiracy because you're living through that moment, and you'll throw it out the window, and in 30 years, if that conspiracy becomes right, you'll be like, oh yeah, that's right.
I think it depends on the conspiracy. I know there's a lot of famous people, especially right now, that buy into the flat. They call them flat earthers.
Oh,
I mean,
yes.
that's
come on, that's
huge
scientifically
right now.
proven
That's
that we
so
do not live on a flat
stupid.
Earth. It's
They've
the
been
dumbest thing.
disproved every point.
Yeah,
along the way.
but yet they
Right.
believe it, and then 9/11 conspiracy, of course, is a disheartening one that people.
Anti-vaxxers.
Yeah.
Oh, let's not even get into
Oh,
that.
the,
Stuff
but
just
the
angers
worst
me.
one is probably, in my opinion, the worst one by far is what was the Ryan Lanning, the guy who killed all those children at the school.
Oh, the fake.
Yeah, the
Oh,
little child crisis actor.
that
right?
was all-
Or it's all fake. I mean,
Oh,
dude, yeah.
man.
Anyway, there's a lot of.
It's
But I hear what you're saying, though. I mean, to an extent, one day I still, because I got my degree in history and I love history. One day I hope we do learn how John F. Kennedy truly was killed. I mean, I feel like there had to be more
there's
to
some
it than
CIA
that.
stuff. There are some weird circumstances
stuff
around
like
that. But
Like you think about movies. Movies are the perfect vessel to kind of slowly tell us and bring us into what the people. I don't want to say the people running the show. The people who have all the answers. Let's call them that.
Yes.
Like movies are a very slow process of trickling down information for us. Like if you think about if we're alone in the universe, you know what I mean? We're talking about Dr. Manhattan here. He goes to where's he go? He
Mars.
goes to Mars, right?
Mars,
Later
yeah.
in the movie. Like how this universe is so large. How are we the only people here in this universe?
It
You know
doesn't
what
make
I
any
mean?
sense. There has to
It
be
doesn't-
other.
it makes
the
other life
math
out
doesn't
sense.
line up. Even if you were in like 0.000000001% of like galaxies out there had life, that would still be like thousands of galaxies.
Yeah,
with
well,
life. You know what I mean?
difference
It's like,
though,
it's
life
like
form,
something
I mean,
like that crazy.
Life can be anything, though. Life could be in different
Great.
Microbes.
Yeah.
Microbes.
Yeah.
They've proven that there was actually like life, like microbes,
Yeah.
on Mars, on different planets. They
Running
actually-
water, yeah, it had
at one point
water,
in
it had
time.
an Earth-like
At
environment.
one point in time, I mean,
Yeah.
maybe it wasn't people walking around,
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean,
but
like I have to
It's
believe
life.
that we're not the only.
No.
oh yeah,
We
no,
still don't
it's
have the
not.
technology
Intelligence.
to detect other, yeah. But
Right.
anyways, like talking about the conspiracy theories, it's cool. I love it when movies like this feed into that, like showing
Yeah.
the comedian
Yeah.
assassinating JFK, and like it's
X-Men
really
with Magneto was the one who turned the bullet.
exactly. Yeah,
Oh,
see, I
yes.
think that's
Yeah.
really interesting.
Yeah.
So I think one of the best things about this
Sound of
movie is
Silence.
just the soundtrack. I mean, God,
Yes.
Yeah.
The
like,
soundtrack is here. We have Sound of Silence, Simon and Garfunkel.
Yeah. So perfectly encapsulates.
There's a lot of
moments,
rain.
too.
There's a lot of rain, guys. 1985.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of rain
Rain.
in that world. This reminds me of
The last 2
movie
weeks.
7.
The last 2 weeks.
This movie was also used in Old School when Will Ferrell gets shot with a dart and falls into the pool. As he's sinking to the bottom of the pool, so you can get out of
And Sean William Scott shoots him with a dart.
It's sad to see that.
You know, the way he falls in the water.
Much different context, but yes, I love associating songs with like ways they've been used in movies. That's what I think of because obviously my life is movies. I work in movies. I'm obsessed with movies. It's my thing. Like I think I associate songs and things with movies now that I've heard them in. I like Dr. Manhattan in the suit here.
I think we all do that, though. Yeah.
It's really
It's,
interesting.
it's funny how he chooses it. Like Dr. Manhattan, he's as we learn later
He's not
on
going
in
to
the
show up
movie,
naked to a funeral. That would be
Right.
bad taste. That would be bad taste,
Here's the
guys.
thing. As much as he is a being beyond comprehension, he still does try to what's a good
Fit
word?
into society.
Fit into society. He does. It's very
Yeah.
interesting, but he does choose to do that. So
Yeah, that's true.
Was the comedian a vet?
Was he? Did he serve?
Because he's getting like a military
100%.
funeral.
He,
Okay,
yeah, he was in Vietnam. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, he's getting a.
Yeah.
He was in Vietnam,
I
and then
didn't know that.
eventually
Guys-
he was a undercover kind of spy assassin.
Well,
for
we're
the
gonna
government.
get more Vietnam stuff later in this too.
Yeah.
Of course we are. Yeah. No,
Which is,
we're
I
definitely-
love the Dr. Manhattan stuff from that first teaser
Uh-huh.
trailer. Like I said, I knew nothing about it, but all those like weird images, of, like it was just a circulatory system, and like that stuff blows my mind. It's the coolest
And then
thing.
you,
Like
and
I
you thought
love.
Dr. Manhattan was a villain?
I
he
don't
was a
know.
villain.
I don't
thought
remember
Dr.
what I
Manhattan
thought, but-
and Silk Spectre were villains from the trailer.
I thought that was so cool. Like the whole concept of Dr. Manhattan is really cool. To
Yeah.
me. Like,
So,
I
what's
love
cool
that
here
stuff.
is we have the original Silk Spectre and her daughter, who becomes the new Silk Spectre in the comic. So
Yes.
you know, it's kind of a superhero family event, I guess you could say. Affair, if you
We
will,
get
but-
Carlo Gugino and Malin Ackerman in
Yeah.
this movie together.
They both,
Well,
they
this
both
is
could
like
be in my top
this is
10.
Malin Ackerman's breakout role, right?
I agree.
Because I never heard of her
Yeah,
before this,
she's
and
been- yeah.
when I watched this, I didn't think I'd hear of her again because I mean she's alright
Yeah.
in the movie, but she doesn't stand out as a superstar.
No, this was definitely.
This
I
is her
agree,
breakout role for sure. She was in what that movie with
Well, she was in a Ben Stiller
Ben
comedy.
Stiller, yeah.
Oh yeah, no, she was.
She's been in a bunch.
She's
of
been in a
things.
bunch.
Oh,
of
she was the
She was in
girl from
27
Harold-
Dresses. She was a
She's in
sister.
Harold and Kumar, the girl with the boobs. It's flashed her boobs.
Oh,
And she was, you want to mess with my wife? Remember
Well,
that?
with freak shows. Freak
Freak
shows.
shows.
Well,
Freak shows.
as
You're right.
as
I
you
love
know,
it.
she
I love it.
flashes her
Yeah.
boobs in this movie too, because and we'll get to that later. But it's probably one of the most infamously sexual movie scenes.
We don't get a lot of nudity
Yeah.
in these superhero movies, guys. This is great.
This, is,
I know.
Oh,
this talks to us.
the history of
This movie talks to us.
Carla Gugino,
Dude.
she had already done Sin City at this point. She gets,
Which is
she
another
does, she has-
huge,
she does
which
nude
is an
scenes
amazing
in Sin
scene
City,
as
yeah.
well.
Guys, this is fair. This movie is kind of like Sin City, but in color,
Yeah.
right? Because Sin
Yeah.
City also is very noirish, taking place in this like rainy, dark city with these,
Yeah.
is, recreating comic book panels as best as it could, you know.
I compare this movie more though to an art form called chiaroscuro, in my opinion. That's light versus
Yeah.
dark. I mean, you really get
Yeah.
the shades of kind of the Sin City-esque, but also there's a brightness to it as well at times.
Green lamps, Martin in the
Chiaroscuro,
background.
that was,
Yes, and
Did not Goya? Who was the biggest one during the was it the Dark Renaissance?
Well, it was
Chiaroscuro?
Rembrandt. He's
Rembrandt.
the one that kind of really encapsulated chiaroscuro, but Flemish painters.
So I will say that Zack Snyder is a modern day painter.
Modern day Rembrandt.
Modern day
Ooh,
Rembrandt.
Ooh, that's giving him a lot of
that's high
credit.
praise.
Yeah.
I'm
that's-
disappointed that the comedian doesn't carry a barbed wire covered baseball bat in this movie.
I thought you were gonna say.
I can't unsee Negan. I can't unsee Negan.
I thought you were gonna say one of those horns that.
No.
It's a comedian.
It's not
We've
that
been watching
good of a
Negan
guy.
for a couple of years now in The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
He's so good. He's so good. In
Okay, so I thought junkie here.
Lucille.
So I love the fact that here we have a very sexualized character and woman. What is this? The 70s? This is the 80s here.
80s.
Yeah,
85.
80s here.
Oh no, wait. Is this a flashback?
And
or
we're
is this
not-
mod-
Yes,
no.
flashback.
This is a
Flashback. Never mind. Yeah.
But we're not looking at like our modern day model with like extremely skinny Victoria's Secret model. We're looking like a normal woman here.
That's how they
Which
were
is
back
re-
then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's amazing to go back and see. As sexual as this is, it's cool to see her being embraced. I don't know, for her normal body.
Well, she's
You know what
definitely
I
being
mean?
embraced at the moment, but in a bad way.
Right, as we're talking about this in a rape scene, which
I
is
know.
tough.
Yeah.
But I don't know, man, and it's just more stuff to talk about. Like, think of how many social commentary moments we've talked about in this film that are huge, like push button issues right now.
To be clear, and to your point, I think that's changing a lot though now. Where I think brands, especially and companies, are really starting to engage in more women in a more comfortable feeling and appearance. More like you don't have to be a skinny, extremely skinny model anymore. So
Right.
I hear where you're coming from, but I think the tides are changing on that in a good way. So.
Yeah.
So Zack Snyder intentionally cast younger actors in this because he thought it would be easier to age them up than age them down. See, nowadays you can easily age down people. Captain Marvel just came out this weekend, and you can age down Samuel L. Jackson and Clark Gregg, stuff like that. But
that makes sense.
it's easier to age up, put people in old age makeup like Carlo Gugino in these scenes. So.
What's cool here is that I've noticed after watching this is like before we see a flashback like this, Zack Snyder does like some type of a push-in or something that lets us know that we're about to go into a flashback of the character that we're looking at.
This shot is amazing.
Yeah, the shot was in the trailer. We just had a push-in of, what's his face, Dr. Manhattan. Now we're in Vietnam. Like, this looks like a painting, Chad.
And
this is a reference to Apocalypse Now with the Ride of the Valkyries soundtrack in the background, which Coppola famously used in Apocalypse Now. So,
and they cut from the fact that he's watching this military funeral, which gives him this thought to flash back. It kind of like gives us the reason why we're seeing he's thinking about it, why we're seeing his thoughts about it.
Let's just point out the comedian just lit his cigar up with his.
I love it. So good.
Burns the Viet Cong
So
to death.
This goes back. So this and Chris, you were saying that Dr. Manhattan's we went into a flashback because he was looking at that military funeral. This goes back to like what Nolan did with Two-Face. You know what I mean? And like we have this character die. And we know that he has this horrible backstory, but instead we're going to highlight the good stuff because humanity needs to see the good part of his story in order to survive and move forward. I feel like that's what we're doing with the comedian on his inner circle, not with the masses, but the inner circle. Like they're highlighting the comedian's good part, giving him this military funeral. But yet we're watching all the horrible shit that the comedian has done.
Right.
Well, and I think, my opinion, the ulterior message there is no matter how bad someone is, everyone serves a purpose.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing too, Vietnam was a really shitty war, and a lot of people did really terrible things on both sides, and it was just like was not good. So it was hard to come out of that clean. You know what I mean? But in this alternate version, did we win Vietnam because they were on our side?
We win Vietnam essentially because of Dr. Manhattan.
Yeah, pretty much.
He's the one that really changed.
Well, like you said, like he's the only one who actually has powers, right? Like all these other guys are just vigilantes, like Batman.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Okay.
He states that he's not a god because he essentially can't control time. He can't control what's going to happen. He just knows what's going to happen among his other amazing powers. But let's be honest, he's a god.
Yeah.
I mean, pretty much is.
This scene is so like we're sitting here. We're like, dude, this is probably why he was cast as Negan. He shot
a pregnant woman.
Vietnamese woman,
pregnant woman that he caused to be pregnant.
Right.
On top of that.
And yet we still feel empathy for him. Oh my god,
it's pretty crazy.
It's crazy.
I was just thinking about Dr. Manhattan. So they actually did. They had Billy Crudup because he's in so many scenes. Normally, you would like film him separately with motion capture and film plates, on set. They wanted to just condense it a little. So if you can see the glow, they actually had Billy Crudup on set in a motion capture suit with hundreds of like blue LED lights on the motion capture suit. So all the glow you see, like you just saw it on Jeffrey Dean Morgan's
that's
face.
real?
Yeah, they wanted to have the blue glow physically on set. Why not? Because you know he's going to glow.
Make it practical.
See what I mean? Look, pushing. We're pushing into this character right here, and then we're going to go into. Are we going to going into? Yeah, we're going into
a flashback.
Oh, you're right. It's the push-in puts us into an old memory
what
from
they're
that character.
thinking.
That's
good.
That's cool, man.
Yeah, it's so cool.
Now, do you think, look at these guys in their superhero disguises, just a little bit around the eyes, does that really hide their identity that much? Like, you would still recognize him. You would still recognize him, but they just have the little, like, squares around the eyes, like, instead of a full mask.
Well, the thing is, if you don't see them next to each other, the whole Superman theory, which I'm sorry, you would recognize Superman.
Oh, like
Clark. But the whole Superman theory is like, Clark Kent's not famous.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
like when people
true.
hear that
We
that
know
was
what Jeffrey
Bruce Wayne,
Morgan
they're
looks
like
like,
Bruce
yeah.
Wayne. That's bullshit. But the thing
Yes.
is, like Bruce Wayne's kind of famous.
Yeah.
So once they see his face, they would say,
True.
"Oh, Clark
True.
Kent's nobody."
I
When
Yeah,
he
but I
have a
feel-
mask,
yeah,
I don't
but
know who he is.
Lois Lane still doesn't recognize Superman, even though
Well,
Clark
yeah,
Kent-
that's-
he had the little curl and take
Well,
off
that's
the
different.
glasses.
She should
no,
be
no,
able
no.
to tell.
I heard. I can't remember if it was a rumor, but there was actually an explanation for that. Is apparently Superman and Kryptonians have some sort of ability where they
Mental?
can mask. Yeah, I think mask their
Oh.
actual physical makeup, and that's how he's able to, even with just glasses on, not
I'm
appear like
Black Mirror.
Calling bullshit.
Which,
No, no, I read that
I would
somewhere.
say that's yeah. Because I don't know if you guys well we went and watched the
Superman.
the Reign of Superman thing when she
Yeah.
actually Lois Lane and Superman in this cartoon
Yeah.
they have this scene where Clark Kent tells her he's Superman, and all he does is she's like bullshit.
Yeah.
She's sitting right across from him at the table.
Yeah.
He takes his glasses off and say, "Really look at me."
Yeah.
And she has to really stare at him and says, "Oh shit, now I see it."
Right.
But she's been dating him for how long?
A long
He
time,
hasn't
years.
seen it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there's some element of that is true too. But yeah.
I don't know if I said this earlier, and when I saw the trailer for Watchmen, I don't think I did. But what drew me to this story was the costumes. We were in what is this? 2008. We had Iron Man. We had all of the bat nipples and all that stuff before. We had
Dark
Iron
Knight.
Man and the Dark Knight. Those were the only two viable superhero films
Yes.
of my time. And then we come to this, and they have these outlandish costumes, and I was 100% ready for this. I don't know. I don't know if
Well, they
everybody
have to
else
also
was.
put some of these when you're back in the 40s and earlier decades. They have to kind of match what you think a superhero costume would look like
Yeah.
in those decades and how they
But
evolve
from
over
that
time.
Well, put yourself in the
Yeah.
position of you watching that trailer, though.
Mhm.
I had no idea that this took place and there was jumps from different time periods.
Well, this
Yeah.
isn't the
Oh,
40s
no.
though. This is
No,
like-
no, but I mean, you see.
Oh, in the trailer? Oh,
In the trailer, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Like when Owlman, I'm called Owlman. 'Cause you
Night
call
Owl?
it Night Owl.
Not out.
When he flies down and then does the superhero landing and then like stands up slowly with his cape, that's so badass. And
It's
like,
pretty badass.
I was like,
You know,
I'm
it's
ready for this.
unfortunate. This movie was nominated for 0 Oscars. It's kind of unfortunate because it's
How
a
is that
really
possible?
it's a well-made movie because
2000
it also came out in March, which a lot of things that come out earlier in the year kind of get forgotten about. I mean, Black Panther being an exception last year, but I don't know. People the Oscars weren't ready for superhero movies back then. Like Dark Knight, famously
Which
didn't get
sucks.
nominated for big ones. I mean, obviously Heath Ledger won for that,
Right.
But you know what I mean? Like
I-
now they're accepting more Black Panther and
for
everything.
For the capers that have followed this podcast since day one, you know that this Cape State Free is around because of what happened in 2008 with The Dark Knight. You know we've talked about this plenty of times, how Dark Knight got snubbed. Even Hugh Jackman and the Academy, his opening sequence had a moment in the Academy where he talked about how The Dark Knight got snubbed. Like, that's the reason why Cape State Free exists, you know what I mean? So the fact that now that Black Panther was nominated for something as huge as Best Picture?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
That's
and it
a
won a few.
huge-
It won. What it won? Production design, costume design. It won a couple.
That's a
Score,
huge
original
step.
score. Yeah.
That's a huge step for superhero movie, for this
Yeah,
genre
yeah,
as a
that's
whole.
big.
The fact it was nominated for Best Picture is a huge step.
Yeah.
Endgame next year,
Okay.
maybe.
So
Hashtag Endgame for Best Picture.
There's no black people in the game.
What are you talking about? Well, it's a well, yeah, some of them have
No,
to be-
War Machine's in it.
No!
War Machine's in it.
There's no.
War Machine's
Wait,
there.
we've talked about that on this? I don't know. My
Iron
experience seeing Black Panther. Oh no, seeing Infinity War in the theater.
And when
When everybody starts, spoiler alert, turn it off now if you haven't seen Infinity War, you should have.
Yeah.
But when everybody starts fading away after the snap, and the theater was dead quiet. I was in opening night, and T'Challa disintegrates, and somebody goes, "No!" in the back of the ears. It was authentic. It wasn't like a trying to be
And that-
funny thing. It was
yeah.
literally an authentic agony.
And that's-
it was
that's
great.
a genuine
It was
moment.
amazing.
That's a genuine moment that person had in a superhero
But it
film.
almost made me laugh. Like it was a very emotional scene with just one person.
So-
saying, "No."
That's not the fake laugh that Chris
So-
had at
Anyways,
Captain Marvel
He'll be
this
back.
weekend.
He'll be back. He'll be back.
All right, go ahead, Ryan. I don't even know when to talk.
I don't know.
I love that.
So we got Rorschach, who is really just doing his crime fighting skills here and trying to find out what's going on because he knows there's some ulterior.
Wait, why does this guy have elf ears?
He's a villain.
You know you just interrupted me when I was talking, right?
You did.
No, I'm just asking a question so you can continue to answer it for me.
Thank you.
He's a top villain. Good.
Let me go back into what I was
Why is
saying.
he
I was going to
focused?
get to him, but... So this is the villain Mollusk, and we're going to learn a lot more about him as the movie goes on, that he has cancer, that he's dying, that he was a previous villain that was created because of a need for villains as we have need for superheroes, because that's kind of what happens. They reference that in the first Batman movie in the Nolan series, is that they tend to crop up as you create a reason for them. But, I think what it brings up to me is you kind of feel for this guy who, like, was a bad guy, and that's what's amazing about this movie is you don't know who to root for.
Yeah.
There's so many people to root for.
Right.
This guy's ears are throwing me off. He looks like Dobby the house elf from Harry Potter or something.
He's been beat up. He's got messed up ears.
So Ryan, I'm thinking back to what you were saying, and I completely agree with you. This movie is Rorschach's story.
Yeah.
For sure. He has the journal.
That
journal turned into this movie.
He's the only one doing a voiceover narration for this movie.
This is his story.
So it's his point of view, basically, yes.
I said that earlier. Yeah, 100%.
But this team, I've never seen, better than Crash, I've never seen an ensemble piece put together so well. Like
Not even Suicide Squad?
Not even.
Not even the Avengers?
Not even Avengers. No.
Because
Well, the Avengers had already introduced all their
Yeah,
characters.
the Avengers had movies
Yes.
to jump.
Yes.
By the time we saw Avengers, you should know who these characters are.
Yes.
This is watch.
I mean, I was joking about Suicide Squad.
I know you were. It just
Thanks.
it brought up an emotion in me.
I
that I couldn't
a
let
gag
go.
reflex, yeah.
Because that's
Crash. Are you comparing this to Crash, really?
I'm
Can you not
comparing,
compare it to
I'm
Crash?
comparing the ensemble cast of splitting screen time and the importance of every single character in this movie. I feel is on par with Crash.
You know, I really liked Crash. I know it won Best Picture. I know some people don't like it, but when I first saw that movie, this was before it won the Oscar. Like when it first came out, like I was pretty blown away by Crash. And I haven't watched it in years. I haven't watched it in a long. I probably haven't watched it in 15 years. But
In my head,
I liked it at the time. You know, I thought it was effective. Yes.
Take away a character in Crash, can that story still be told? Take away a character here in Watchmen, I don't know if that story can still be told.
Yeah.
The way it's supposed to be told here.
Well, luckily the studios gave. I don't really know what a lot of the backstory is with the runtime of this and how the studios felt about that, but generally studios don't want a movie that's 2 hours and 42 minutes long.
So you know what
At
they
least in
felt
the
about
theaters.
it.
So I mean, like
Yeah,
he
you know
had
they felt.
time. He had time to explore that in the runtime.
Yeah. Which is why
You know.
you need to see the director's cut of this. I mean, first you need to watch the theatrical version a few more times, and then watch the director's cut so you can understand why that extra 20 minutes adds so much more to
And
the
then
story.
there's
I agree to it,
the
yeah.
extended cut, which has Tales from the Black Freighter. Which Ryan, can you tell us a little about Tales from the Black Freighter and what that's and Behind the Mask or whatever that Under the Hood?
Under the Hood?
What
Is
is-
that Batman?
what?
Damn it, Ryan! All right, fine.
What are you
All right,
talking about?
I believe isn't there something? What is the comic within the
Oh,
comic
yeah.
called Tales from the Black Freighter? Is that
The
in
white
the original
guy
book?
and the black dude, right?
And Gerard Butler did a voice. It's an animated segment
Oh.
that I don't know if it was specifically. I don't know if it was supposed to be in the movie or specifically made for the DVD or something
Talking
later
about this
on.
movie?
But it's been edited into the extended cut of this movie called Tales from the Black
And
Freighter.
you see these characters multiple times in the movie, and you're like, why are they so prominent?
It's an animated segment. I think Gerard Butler, because Zack Snyder worked with him on 300, he
Right.
got him to do the voice. And I don't really remember how it ties in because it's been a long time since I watched that, but it's a comic within the comic. And there's also Under the Hood, which is within this world. It's like some memoir that like Rorschach or one of the superheroes wrote, which has been portrayed. Okay,
Yeah,
I don't know
I
what's
don't
in the
remember
original Watchmen comic or not. I'm not 100% sure, but yeah, that adds to the extended
Well,
edition.
I
of
haven't
this
seen
movie.
the extended version, so but we'll see.
I'm just with all this Nixon stuff. I'm thinking like in like 20 or 30 years, how many things are we going to see where there's like alternate universe stuff where like Trump was president for like 15 years or some shit like that? You know what I mean? Like we're going to see like Nixon is kind of like the go-to like villain president right now. Not to get too political, not to get too political on fake Cape Seat Free people, but
There's parallels.
we can see where things are going.
no.
Come on, we know where things are going.
That
So it's
movie
like
can be darker than
Nixon,
Watchmen.
I'm just saying, like, Nixon is kind of like the go-to, like, oh, like, this movie, alternate history, he's on a third term, and, like, you know, like that's bad for the world, you know what I mean? Like, I'm just wondering, in the decades to come, we're going to see, like, oh, Trump elected to third term. Like, that's going to be the alternate history of
scary
how
thing.
things could... It's
I mean,
scary, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
I mean the reason it's happening in this movie is because of how wars have
like
changed.
we can all agree things are not going
Trump
well.
is publicly praise dictators who have
Exactly.
been in power for over decades. So
If it was up to his choice, like
he would.
there are like fears now that like if he loses like 2020 election, he might not leave quietly, and that's going to cause a whole. So I'm just saying, like he will be a future villain in movies. I'm just saying, like history is dictating that he's a villain now. He will be a future villain, like Nixon has been.
Villain.
Like Nixon is portrayed in a lot of movies ever since his
So
presidency.
was Nixon Nixon was the
Well, it depends if he
the
gets
actor
caught.
before, right?
No, that was Ronald Reagan.
Oh, Reagan. There we go.
Yeah,
Another
it was
name that's
Reagan.
infamous
Well, a lot
in politics.
of what was happening when Alan Moore wrote this comic was actually against Ronald Reagan. He did not like a lot of his politics,
Right.
But he didn't want it to be overtly obvious in the comic, so that's why you don't see a lot of anything relating to Ronald Reagan in the era that might be in that time frame. You just get, oh yeah, I know what you're doing.
Martin just grabbed my shoulders.
Yeah,
knowing that
we got Blue Man
on
on action going on
This
here.
is like this is.
But I was
Blue Man-
also
yeah.
doing that because of what Ryan was saying was great.
Sure.
This is Blue Man Group, R-rated Blue Man Group. Whoa, he's got multiple hands. Damn, he can satisfy any woman because he can just multiply his hands. And
Well, he can not only multiply his hand, he can be anywhere he wants.
can
at
he
any time.
multiply his like penises?
Yeah, he can do anything he
So
wants.
he's got 4 hands. Does he also have like?
How is he
Still,
not? He's the
yes.
most powerful superhero. He's the most powerful hero ever.
He's got matter manipulation. He can do just about anything.
Oh, he just made 2 of himself.
But he has,
No, there's more than just 2 of them. There's
Oh,
more.
I
than
know.
one.
I remember.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
more working too.
he would have been the perfect Hulk.
He would have been good.
Oh my god.
But you know what? I'm happy
Billy-
with Ruffalo now.
Me too.
Ruffalo's
Like, I
great.
love-
No, I like Ruffalo.
I love
Billy
Hulk.
Crudup would have been a solid choice for sure.
Maybe he'll be the Hulk
This just
next.
shows how he's losing touch with humanity.
It does.
He doesn't
It
even
does.
know how to stimulate his
It's
girlfriend
just the
anymore.
glow from him creates such a cool color, like lighting scenarios for the cinematography in this movie. I think this is really good. Larry Fong was probably really excited. Like you have this blue glow in the background
Yeah.
and like other colors in the foreground. It's really interesting.
I was taking photos of Sabrina last night. We went to the Venice Beach canals,
yeah.
and like all of the like different colors and the blues and stuff that was reflecting in the water. That was for me. I'm not even a
Now,
cinematographer.
For all
that
you
was amazing.
For all you capers out there, like I know it might not be something you consciously think about when you watch a movie, but color is a huge discussed part of a movie with cinematographer. Okay, like we mentioned before, I work in animation. I'm working on a new musical Sony Animation's doing with Lin-Manuel Miranda. It's a musical, and I'm in so many meetings every week. We're talking about the color theory of the movie, how whole movies about it, what the musical sequences, what the emotions, how they're conveyed by color in different scenes, and how you balance that and how it changes over the course of the movie. It's a huge thing, and you might not think about it, but I think it subconsciously affects how you feel about the movie and how you see things and,
Chris, I think we
and
just
stuff
had
like
a-
that. So it's a big thing.
I think we just had a yawn damn fault almost moment. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Because Dr. Manhattan was like, have your men stand back. They were not standing back, and that thing transported there, and that could
They
have
could have died.
How would you have felt to be the digital
If
artist?
I hurt, it'll be their own damn fault.
If you're the digital artist who had to design Dr. Manhattan's penis,
I
mean, you know,
Look at that
you
pushing.
seem
Look at that
bummed
pushing.
out.
Are we going to? Yes. This is my favorite
Flashback.
flashback
You got it. You figured
in
it out.
the history of movies. I remember I was managing a film festival, and it was in March every year around the same time. So this was one of the movies that came out during that time, and I was just like hope and pray that I'd get like a quick break so I can just go. I used to try and time it so I can go watch this backflash sequence of Dr. Manhattan.
Backflash?
Backflash.
It's a new term. We created it. It means
It's-
the opposite of a flashback.
Backflash.
Backflash. I mean, it's not happening
It
now,
works.
but it's like the Philharmonic Orchestra does the music for his. It'll come up later.
And of course, the motivation is that Silk Spectre's just breaking up with him,
Yeah.
which is supposed to be. He actually says it. This is your mind like last link to humanity.
Yes.
is
Right.
Keep him like and.
Keep him.
So that memory, him doing his flashback is his memory of like him being human.
Yeah.
And that, but over this time he's been slowly like drifting away, and
It's just.
that seems pretty telling how
When
he's just he's just phoning it in with his girlfriend.
Right. When his heart gets broken here, and then he goes off to Mars and does that speech, I totally feel for Dr. Manhattan right there. When he just gives up on humanity because you every single person has a different type of emotion and a different like lifestyle that they make those decisions based upon those emotions that they've experienced. And it's like it's so hard to say as a human race we should do this, or as the human race we should do this. It's so hard to give us a gray and white scale to live by, like Rorschach lives by. And so I don't know, just the complexities of Dr. Manhattan and feeling like he's slowly been like drifting away, like you said, Chris, from humanity. I don't know. I just really resonated to him in that moment.
Now, Dr. Manhattan, that's going to be a reference to the Manhattan Project, which was the U.S. developing the atomic bomb during World War II, right? Because, it's atomic energy and all that stuff. Which we haven't seen how he became him yet. That's coming later in this movie.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he can just dress without even touching anything. His tie ties itself. Man.
That sounds like a lot of work. I figured it would just appear on his body anyway.
He just manifests.
So he can manipulate. Matter has to already be there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's not creating a tie and having a tie build upon him. He's taking that physical tie that's already been created and manipulating what his mind and making him do what he wants.
It was like earlier in the comedian. I think it was the comedian. Flashback or backflash, whichever one you call it. He makes a comment when he's shooting the pregnant Vietnam woman.
Yeah.
He says, "You've lost touch. You could have turned that bullet into a flower." So to that, he emphasizes in that moment that he does have the ability to manipulate matter. But.
So at that point, he's saying, Dr. Manhattan, you have the power to make this world great again, but you're not doing it. Why isn't he doing it?
Because he's losing touch. He's about to go to this interview. He actually brings that picture with him of him being human because he knows that he's going to be on screen and he has to show some sort of humanity. Yeah. He's realizing it once she left. Once Silk Spectre, the new Silk Spectre, left him. Yeah, he's starting to realize that he is losing touch with society.
Right. And I'm wondering, does that scare him that he's becoming more human than he realizes? He feels that heartbreak. He knows a heartbreak is coming.
Well, the problem is, I don't think it's the heartbreak. I believe it's the fact that he realizes that he's not caring as much anymore, and that's and so he's actually caring about the fact that he's not caring as much anymore. That he's seeing the fact that he's drifting away.
I've had that happen in real life. That's why I connect with him so much too. Chad, we talk about this all the time. Think about all the movies you watched as a kid. We're in this industry because of the movies that we watched as a child.
Oh, yeah.
That pushed us to want to get here.
Inspired us, yeah.
Sure. And now here we are, adults. We don't have that same amount of time that we did before to go watch those movies.
Definitely
I feel so bad sometimes that I can't go watch a movie every weekend when it comes out.
I know.
You know what I mean?
I know.
And it feels like, am I losing that passion? Or is it that I'm just busy and
we don't have as much
things.
Time. We used to be able to have time to be obsessed with things.
Yeah.
We don't really have that. I don't have the time to be obsessed with things anymore. Seriously, I don't.
This is such a great scene.
This is Dr. Manhattan. Yeah.
Well, that one too, but no, just Silk Spectre and Night Owl just kicking the shit out of all the
Did they just see Rorschach without his mask on? That was Jackie Earle Haley on the street.
What did you call him?
How the hell do you pronounce
it? Say it again? No, you say it.
Rorschach?
No, it's not a shark.
Rorschach.
Rorschach.
He's Rorschach.
Hey, he can be a Rorschach.
Street Shark? Give me a Street Shark.
Street Sharks?
But I will say, I agree. One of my favorite scenes is when Dr. Manhattan, he yells out in a fury, like,
where's the trigger?
I swear.
Chris, what were you
I will say this, and this is from a production standpoint, working in television. That background, he's on, Dr. Manhattan's on a TV show, and it's called Face to Face. Mm-hmm. And that huge built thing is
the blue
face
thing?
to face with Dr. Manhattan.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. It would just say face to face.
He just showed up. He just showed up, right? Yeah.
For one guest, you think they build a whole new facade, build a whole new background for each guest?
He just showed up a few minutes before. He teleported into the studio.
Well, yeah, he was scheduled, but they have another guest tomorrow. It's not like they're gonna make face to face with out of that huge neon.
Right. But remember, we're not in the same world.
I'm sorry, that was just production.
Chris, I 100% agree with you.
We're in this world though. This is Dr. Manhattan. To get Dr. Manhattan on television, who knows? That might have been a huge thing.
I actually love that effect where he transports someone there's a little sonic blast that affects everybody around him. I think that's a super cool.
Do you think this exists? Do you think there's two people that together could just easily take on 15 guys?
If you're trained well enough, I think so.
Not like this. Because the thing is, if you notice some of their moves, she kicked him and he flew up and flew backwards.
No one can do that.
Now, I mean, I know we're exaggerating their strengths,
right?
But when you were talking about superpowers earlier, if they have some kind of if these two people have some kind of I don't know, some kind of power, because we never see any training.
Right.
We never see any training in their backstory.
They seem a little stronger than the average.
And she's in heels.
Was the theatrical version still rated R?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
So the director's cut-
Malin Ackerman's boobs were always in this movie.
Okay, so I didn't.
And there was F-bombs.
Did we see the bone come out of the arm?
Yeah, we did.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, this was always rated R.
We saw the leg
Which
twisted
could
on
have
the wrong
also that sometimes hurts the box office of a movie, but not lately. Up until like Deadpool, like rated R movies, superhero movies weren't always. People wanted to stay away from that because of, not as many people can see it when it's rated R. But
Yeah.
now they're not as afraid of that stuff.
I always thought Kelly Slade, his wife, was so pretty, and then to see this moment, I don't know. I had a moment where I'm a very calm person. Like I have a yin and yang tattooed on my arm. Like people know this about me. I had a string of girlfriends that their goal was to see me get mad.
That's the point of any relationship, Marvin. By the way,
Is it?
it's the point of every relationship.
Coming from the married man here.
You try to push each other to your absolute limit. That is.
So I would get so infuriated.
Sorry, Maggie. I love you.
I would get so infuriated because of that, and that would make me so mad. So when he blows up here, I've had moments where I've blown up like this, and it's like I totally feel for him. Yes,
Publicly.
yes, publicly as well. Like, and then you hear Ozymandias talk about how he knows Dr. Manhattan later on in the film, and like his subtleties and his demeanor that changes that let you know that he's pissed. Like that's
He goes to Mars.
I remember seeing this movie for the first time. Once again, I didn't know the comics at that time, and thinking like, oh man, I wish I was him. Like, it'd be so cool to have his powers and just be able to go to Mars and just exist on it.
This is so cool. See, I love space stuff. He just ends up on Mars.
There's his meter right there.
Listen, guys. If you go back to season 1, and all the conversations, we always talk about how I'm so afraid of that stuff that matter in between planets. Like I hate when
Martin hates space.
I hate space.
Well, space is terrifying. It sure
is.
is. It's really scary.
I found myself while doing this with you guys. I found myself liking it again. When I was a kid, I was like, every kid's like, I'd love to go to space. When you become older, it's like, oh shit, what the fuck is space? It's scary. I found myself like so much more. Like I look up into the sky now, and I'm like, oh, that's so cool. Like I look at the moon, and like I've regained that love for space and the stuff that's unknown by doing this with you guys.
Okay, I love that too. I love space. I love astronomy. I love learning about space and other planets. But like, I never want to go there. I'm with you. I don't want to fucking go to space. No, hell no. I want to know about the science of it. I want to look at it from the ground and telescopes and pictures from the Hubble Space Telescope. I don't want to go there. That's terrifying. I watched First Man recently. That shit is terrifying.
Turn it off.
No, you ever watch that? That movie is that really puts you in the seat of what it's like to be a fucking astronaut, and the creaking and the turbulence and the absolute insanity of like blasting humans into space.
Oh, yeah.
It's terrifying. No thanks. I will observe it from here.
Okay, we get it.
No.
When you watch a superhero movie or like a science fiction movie where they in space travels, it looks cool. Going to space, woo woo woo. But when you watch like Gravity.
No.
I mean, that thing was a horror movie, and it was just them two, and space was the monster.
Terrifying.
Yeah.
Terrifying.
I can't even stand
kill you.
I can't even stand roller coasters now. Can you strapping yourself in like an Armageddon when they're like going like 2 Gs or whatever it is? Oh man, hell no. Oh my god, Ryan, what do you have to say about
Intrinsic
this?
field chamber. So I have no idea what that is. An intrinsic field chamber. What are they doing? Like I don't even know what this science is.
Did he just accidentally get trapped in here?
Yeah.
Shit.
You got trapped
Did
in
he
by accident.
though? Or did
Because
he
he left
ever
his
say
watch.
we
You
need
mean
you?
is it fate? Is that what
Is
you're
it
saying?
fate, right?
I mean, I guess so. I mean, it
We
must
all
be.
okay. I don't know. Fate is around. If we all believe in fate, everyone has a certain fate, right? I don't believe in fate per se,
Wow.
But
she
he
stood by him? Wow.
but she didn't stand by him, right?
I know. She stands by him later on. But no, and just so going back to the flashback right before the scene, he pops onto Mars, and it motivates us into the flashback of why he's all frustrated and why he blew up.
Yeah.
And why he all of a sudden feels for this woman that has cancer. We get to know her because we find out his backstory.
It's a connection he had before he became Dr.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Which is the same picture he put in his pocket before he even went.
What if she would have stayed there with him at that glass, looking at him. Put your hand up at the glass like me, like Bruce Willis did with Ben Affleck in Armageddon. What if she would have been there, right there at that moment? Maybe he wouldn't have been with Sil Spector. Maybe he wouldn't have lost his love.
Charlie in Lost, hand against the glass, bringing it back to Lost.
Not what's her name's boat.
Not Penny's boat.
Not Penny's boat.
Is this a flashback within a flashback? Also,
yes,
this is. Yeah.
It is. Like, imagine if she was there instead of Wally.
Wait, what are you saying?
I'm just saying, if she was there for him in that time of need, when his whole world was changing, maybe he would have still loved her in the future and not gone with Sil Spector.
I mean, it's tough to say for sure if that had any play whatsoever in it. It almost seems like he just loses touch with love altogether in that moment.
I would never forget that moment.
Oh yeah,
that moment that what he's going through right now, and the girl that I love for the first time, the first girl to ever buy me a beer.
Right.
I'm just judging what he's been saying in the flashback.
He does project anger in that moment too, and he yells at her. You're right. I hear what you're saying.
Guys,
it's an interesting concept.
I just had an interesting thought. Okay, so this guy was accidentally trapped in some
intrinsic field generator,
like really bad environment you don't want to be in, right?
Yeah.
Do you think there's been people? This is a really sad thought. I just had this thought.
Okay.
No.
I think there's been people over the years who have been trapped in something and they're like getting blasted with radiation, or like instead of thinking I'm about to die, they're like, maybe I'll become a superhero, and then they die.
That's fucked up.
Maybe that's like their last thought because it happened to Dr. Manhattan, it happened to Bruce Banner. It's like
so that's a good thought that they have before they die.
Yeah, maybe they end on a happy thought. It gives them hope.
Yeah,
you know? I don't know.
So hope can be
these shots are super cool where he manifests in different places. The janitor and the commissary. These were in the trailer. This shit blew me away. I really love this.
I gotta be honest. I feel like he's sculpted after the statue of David. Like he is perfectly sculpted.
David is always considered the
perfect man.
The perfect man, right?
Yeah.
He's sculpted after a very specific actor / model named Greg something. I'm blanking on his last name. He was very chiseled model / actor who was actually killed a few years ago in Burbank. He got hit by a Metrolink train while filming some video for some energy drink or something like that. He was struck by a Metrolink train in Burbank. His name's Greg something. I'm blanking on it, but he was modeled after that body. He must have been a really chiseled dude.
Jesus.
Yes.
God,
I'm sorry to bring it down. I'm just telling you the facts. So.
This was a cool scene though when he fucks with the tank.
Is this maybe the longest montage ever? This is like 9 minutes. I know the song's about 9.5 minutes long.
Definitely not.
This is so cool. I love flashbacks within flashbacks. And Martin, do you think if I start working out right now, I could ever get a body that looks like Dr. Manhattan?
No.
I don't think it's in your genes, Chad.
I knew that was the answer.
If you were like 21,
I would have said quickly you would say no. Absolutely no. I would never have the work ethic to.
No.
You work that with.
I mean, okay, listen. I worked with an actor when I was back
under the hood. That's what I was talking
under the
about.
Hood? What?
Yeah. Okay, sorry.
No, that was good. That's good.
Yeah.
It's relevant.
That's a lot of
blood. That was the old night out.
So Dr. Manhattan just did his little squirt
thing
to people, and they just exploded, and all the blood went everywhere.
Who is more powerful than Dr. Manhattan? Seriously, in all of the comics.
Yeah, there are upper echelon. There's a being in the DC universe called the Anti-Monitor who can do incredible things. He's a villain, but there are beings. But what I was gonna say at one point was, so after the 2012 comic book series, before Watchmen, DC finally decided to introduce them, and what they did was they said that it was basically there was an alternate universe. So we got the comic book Doomsday Clock, and that is where we now have the Watchmen interacting with Superman and the Justice League and those characters.
We saw the Doomsday Clock at the very beginning of this movie, adjusting the minutes to midnight or
exactly.
whatever. Yeah, okay.
Which can be
cold.
So the Doomsday Clock series is essentially the post-story after this, I believe.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Which you can now say the Doomsday Clock is equivalent to during 9/11 we had our alerts.
They still know. There's literally still a Doomsday Clock. I don't know who maintains that, but somebody
it's the International Coalition of Atomic Commission
or something like.
But
we're 5 minutes to midnight right now. It's not great, but we're there.
Well, I actually
it keeps getting into it's not
I actually pitched an unscripted documentary series at work once about I wanted to do a documentary series with them. And what's interesting is when you read up about them is, first off, 5 minutes isn't that bad. That's actually not that bad.
I'd rather be like 30 minutes to midnight at the least.
The worst we ever were was like a minute and a half, and it's not what you think it is because...
Was that the nuclear crisis?
Was that Cold War?
I think... Well, what's interesting is most people... This movie got it wrong. in the movie they adjust the doomsday clock in the moment because of what's happening at the time. The doomsday clock, they meet like once a year and change it based off all the events previously or twice a year. So it's not in the moment. It's not like so you could be in a crisis right now, right? Like we are with the country, but they don't meet until 6 months, and maybe the crisis is over and it's changed. So they actually got it wrong in the movie about how they portray it, but yeah, well, 5 minutes is actually, you're in a pretty decent place in society, believe it or not.
Which is good. You always talk about, you hear people say, we are living in the most comfortable time that humans have ever lived in. You know what I mean? And that's scary.
I don't know.
That's scary.
Yeah, but maybe in some respects.
Well, okay. I would say, yeah, but the 10 years from now, yeah, they're going to be living in the most comfortable time.
That's
because,
true.
that's just relative. It's just like saying the newest iPhone, this is the most powerful iPhone. Yeah, it is. Right now, until next year, then that one's going to be the most powerful iPhone.
Think about with, I was watching stand-up. What's that guy from the Community, black dude? This is America.
Donald Glover?
I was watching Donald Glover stand-up.
A.K.A. Childish Gambino?
I was watching a Childish Glover stand-up, and he was like, and he was like, oh yeah, my wife got raped, my kids got killed, but what can you say? It's nighttime. And it's like, just put yourself in that position of living, go back to like the times of Game of Thrones, the times of King Arthur.
Oh yeah.
When there were just
no
life
rules. Was much worse. You would die. The life expectancy was like in your 30s or 40s back then. Like, yeah, it was not good.
So, are we not living in the most comfortable
Oh,
time
yeah,
we've ever
no, we
lived in?
are.
Yeah. I mean, there's still a lot of issues that need to be ironed out, but like life expectancy wise, like yeah, we're doing okay. Is this the doomsday clock again? Here we go.
It is, yeah, but they're changing it like in the moment.
That's closer than 5 minutes to midnight right now.
That is definitely closer than 5 minutes.
This is supposed to be like kind of like a Doctor Strangelove, like war room kind of thing going on right here.
I can imagine living in the time of the Cuban Missile Crisis.
That must have been terrifying.
Oh,
no, my
yeah.
parents tell me about when they
Yeah.
were in school in the 60s, they would have drills where they had to get under the desk, like atomic drills and shit. We never did that. The closest our generation, what we had was school
Earthquakes?
shootings. No, school shootings.
No, we didn't have school shootings. The kids
No.
now have school shootings.
Well, no. Oh, okay. I was in high school. We were in high school after Columbine. We would have code blacks
Wait,
or
you
whatever
guys
they called
had
them.
that?
We had no. Did you guys never had practices where you had to? We had that a couple times. It was after Columbine in '99 where we had to. Put paper over the window, turn off all the lights, and hide in the corner
Holy
and practice
crap.
for a school shooting.
I had
scenario.
no idea.
Yes,
hold
we
on.
had to do that shit.
We had Santee. Santee was in San Diego.
Honestly, we didn't. I grew up in Massachusetts. We didn't have to worry about earthquakes. So,
Well, like I said, I grew up in Santee. That was in San Diego. We didn't even have that, Chad. So the fact that was a school shooting that happened, 20 miles, 15 miles from the school I attended. We didn't even have that. So that's interesting. I've never heard of that at all.
Well, I'll tell you this, which is not getting too political, but the fact is, like, nowadays, just teenagers in high school, if you live in certain areas that have a lot of pollution, they have smoke days. Where
Really?
Smoke days?
Yeah, currently now they have smoke days because of the air quality is so bad that they don't go. They actually have smoke days now that obviously they didn't have before, and to me I feel like that's a kind of a step backwards because that's pollution. Pollution
That's smog in
gotten
LA in the 90s, early 90s, right?
Pretty soon they're going to start
Probably
having water
revert back
days.
to what you're talking about.
Yeah, we're actually going backwards a little bit because we should be advancing past the whole smoke in the air and us not being able to breathe. We should be advancing past it, but that's as political as we can get.
Holy crap.
So,
Let's talk Watchmen.
the Resident
I'm sorry, Ryan. Get political, guys. This is a film that's completely political. This filmmaker and these artists wanted us to have these conversations. Don't
Copy
shy
that.
back from
Copy
having
that.
them. You know what I mean?
Copy that. Yes.
Oh, no, I agree. Parallels to things that are happening. I mean, those are things that are just fun to talk about, if anything.
Yeah.
Right?
When pigs fly.
Couldn't help but notice that Nixon said the last gasp of the Harvard establishment when it was shown that Dr. Manhattan could get rid of the bulk of the nuclear weapons that Russia would send our way, but not the ones that would hit the eastern seaboard. And I can't help but make the parallel that Trump has made derogatory comments towards I don't know if it was the Harvard establishment, but towards like the upper echelon of the intelligence community, and I mean more towards schooling and stuff too. I mean,
Right.
he's made negative comments towards, I think, Ivy League schools and everything. So there's definitely parallels to be made to a lot of things. I find.
And then the biggest tragedy in our lifetime was 9/11 that took place in the East. You know?
Yeah,
Jeez.
yeah, it's pretty crazy.
What's this Matthew Good's character name right here?
Ozymandias.
And he's wearing purple, almost a little villainous, like Mr. Glass.
Mhm.
Or like
Really
Joker.
villain?
Yeah,
Oh, man.
Joker.
Or the Joker.
Why is purple like a villain color? I don't know.
That's a good question.
Right?
Hey, Capers,
The
you want
Joker?
to throw out some comments or explain us your feelings on why you think purple tends to become a villainous
Yeah.
color?
That's interesting.
That's a great
Color?
question.
Yeah.
Because I mean, if I see someone in a purple jacket, I'm thinking the Joker.
I'm running away.
So,
I mean, I'll obviously think Glass or Mr. Glass, but
Yeah,
I'm different.
I always feel bad for this poor assistant who just gets
That
shot.
gets
in the hand. Like, why the assistant?
They're probably the lowest paid person here.
Hey,
oh,
purple-
even the elevator's purple.
I know. Did you see that?
you want to know why? Because it elicits sympathy. That's why. And that's just why it was planned that way.
Yeah, I was going to say something too earlier. I don't know if it coincides with the scene that we're watching here, so I'll wait till the scene ends. But yeah, you're totally right, Ryan. She gets shot in the leg. Someone else gets shot in the head.
Oof.
Next guy gets shot in the head. Every time I see somebody with a long rectangular box like that, I think of
Matrix?
Terminator 2.
Oh, no, yeah, you're right, with the flowers.
The
Yeah,
flowers,
yeah.
Okay, that's superhuman speed right there.
That was pretty superhuman speed.
Yes, this is a.
Does anyone else know at this moment that something was wrong there? The killer was struggling. He didn't put the capsule on his mouth.
I didn't even see. I
saw
didn't
that.
even notice anything.
Yeah, I saw that when I first saw this. I'm like, holy crap, he was struggling. He wasn't trying to kill himself.
No, he wasn't.
That was
That
a
was
very
the
good
plan.
perception if you did. Yeah, I didn't even notice that.
All right, Capers, you've reached the end of part 1 of our Watchmen audio commentary. Tune in next Tuesday for part 2. Catch you later.